This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at the new film Materialists, about an elite New York matchmaker played by Dakota Johnson. The new series The Four Seasons, starring Tina Fey, Coleman Domingo, and Steve Carell. A bunch of new documentaries focusing on Billy Joel, Led Zeppelin, and Pee Wee Herman. Plus, a look at the new season of The Gilded Age. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me are Bill McCuddy from the popular podcast Sitting Around Talking Movies.
Really? Since when?
Oh, you got to check that show out. Lisa Rosman is here, my friend from the Ruby Report, and also my good buddy is back on the show, Rafer Guzman from Newsday.
Yay.
So let's start out with a look at several new films or series in theaters and or streaming, beginning with the new movie Materialists, about a high-end New York City matchmaker juggling her own love life problems. Let's take a look at a clip.
Love is easy.
Is it? I find it to be the most difficult thing in the world.
And that's because we can't help it. It just walks into our lives sometimes.
Are you hitting on me?
Definitely not. But I do think that you would be a great match for a lot of our clients. We need more straight men in New York City. You look about 6 feet tall. How much money do you make?
Just straight up like that.
Lisa, let's talk about Materialists.
All right. Well, this anti-rom-com is the sophomore effort of Celine Song, who directed 2023's ravishing, heartbreaking Past Lives, my favorite movie of that year. Dakota Johnson here stars as a well-regarded New York City matchmaker who baldly regards marriage as a business contract. Pedro Pascal, stop for applause, he's so handsome, plays her tall, handsome, I know, he's amazing. Plays her tall, handsome, rich unicorn of a suitor, and Chris Evans is her cater waiter, aspiring actor, ex-beau who lost her because he didn't make enough cash. In some ways, this film has the gorgeous bone structure of a traditional, conventional rom-com, witty repartee, beautiful, charismatic leads, a classic love triangle, lush backdrops. But it's actually saying such harrowing things about how a capitalist model informs romance that it makes Edith Wharton look like a Pollyanna. I didn't entirely buy the ending, largely because I'm not sure if Dakota's character arc even makes sense to herself, but I'm convinced that Celine Song is a star of her generation, and even her slight misfires are still head and shoulders above everything else.
Rafer?
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this film. I loved it so much. It seemed to be like everything you want out of a Hollywood movie. Like the cast is just completely gorgeous. Everyone just looks fantastic.
New York looks fantastic.
It does.
New York
it
looks fantastic.
Good.
So you get this nice Hollywood kind of dreamy fantasy feel, but the dialogue is really serious, and people are talking about these really serious things about money and love and like their future and what's it going to be like to be poor, you know, if that's what you choose.
They're saying it all out loud.
And they're saying it all out loud, which I think is a real gift of Celine Song. She's really got this way of writing this dialogue that doesn't have any subtext, but it's still really interesting.
It's like super text.
Yeah, she's great. I think she's great. And I loved this movie. I thought it was like the perfect movie for the moment.
It's a great movie, Bill.
Well, I like it too, but it's not a rom-com, and I don't want anyone to watch the trailer for this thing and think they're getting some kind of Julia Roberts like girl in Manhattan. It's also, she only makes $80,000 and she lives in a gorgeous apartment by herself while her boyfriend lives with much more of a reality check over there. You said bone structure. I won't give a plot turn away, but it's got a weird original twist near the 2/3 point that isn't even done anymore, I don't think. But okay, I'll give it that. And there's a sexual assault to keep it real, and that's handled pretty well, except that there's a turn in that I found a little unnecessary. All in all, I highly recommend this film. But, take it with a grain of salt.
I agree.
To call it,
I agree.
To your point, to call it a rom-com diminishes it. And it's more drama. But there are some light moments in it. But as you both said, Celine Song, I mean, her debut feature, Past Lives, it was your favorite movie of the year. It was on my top 10 list. it cuts so deep. It's such a great movie, and I do highly recommend it. It's streaming somewhere. This is not as good as that, but this is really
I think
good.
It's better.
And on paper, this just sounds terrible. I mean, we've seen 300. If you just read the log line, it sounds like hundreds of movies that we've seen.
Pedro Pascal, Dakota Johnson.
Yeah, but no, but it just
that's
says
clearly what she wanted to do. Was upend it a little bit.
100%.
That's like elite matchmaker's got her, her own law of life screwed up.
She wanted to upend and subvert the paradigm, and she did it well.
But the dialogue is so good, and the cast is so good, and I really, as you said, I really look forward to more movies from Celine Song. I mean, she's just got a great voice, and she's a terrific director, and I love this movie, and I highly recommend that that our audience go out and see it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Bill, tell us about the new long documentary, Pee-wee as himself.
Well, Neil, imagine a show with a star in it who knows it's over, but he's not telling anybody else. That's what this is really doing here. It's a fascinating, brutally honest deep dive into the life of Paul Rubens, who then became Pee-wee Herman. But he almost didn't. He almost became an Indian chief, which is wildly racist, and he says so in the movie.
Yeah.
Or he could have been any of a number of other characters. He'd been on The Gong Show before there was Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah, that was fascinating, by the way.
He'd been on The Dating Game as Pee-wee Herman.
And he won.
It's all, well, thanks for that spoiler alert. Anyway, listen, I highly recommend the first hour and a half of this is presented as a documentary. Matt Wolf and the Sapti brothers put it together. Matt's the director. And even Wolf doesn't know that, unfortunately, Pee-wee is dying when he's making this movie. He decides to tell his story from the beginning, and you're going to be fascinated. He meets Phil Hartman. They write one of the big Pee-wee movies. It's all here.
Yeah.
And the evolution of how Paul Rubens can't completely distance himself from Pee-wee Herman is in of itself fascinating. The one other thing that's great that's dropped in this thing is that David Letterman is probably solely responsible for the character of Pee-wee Herman being a national icon.
It's true. Usually a two-part doc feels like an unnecessary indulgence to me, but I could have watched more of this footage.
Really?
It's such an amazing.
I thought it was too long.
No, I love it. It's such an amazing time capsule of this weird, particular moment in the late 70s, early 80s when really drug-informed avant-garde humor was invading the mainstream, and everybody's in it, from like baby Natasha Lyonne to Andy Warhol. I love the Phil Hartman stuff. And it's also, this is Pride Month, and it's a brilliant time capsule of how hard it was to be queer, even in the 80s, especially.
He was out, and then he had to recloset
and then he had to
himself.
go back
That's
in order
amazing.
to have fame. And I think the conflict that transpires between Matt Wolf and Rubens is really, it's meta and it's just self-aware
That's
enough.
what makes the documentary.
It's really interesting.
Is the fact that he wants to be in control all the time.
Right.
And the fact that this other guy is like, no, I'm sorry, I'm making the documentary.
It's like he spent his whole life curating his own story and paying horrible price when he couldn't. So you understand why he was afraid to give over the control.
Rafer.
Yeah, I think those little, I guess you'd almost call them interstitials, these little moments of just actual dialogue between Paul Rubens and the filmmaker.
Conflict that they had.
It's conflict, but he's also joking and he's toying with him.
It's
I don't know.
interesting.
Am I kidding? I'm not. But am I? Do I know?
Right.
Do you know?
I take it all back. I'm not gay.
Exactly.
It's really, really funny.
And it's great. And what comes through in those little interactions is you start to see, like, this is a guy who really knows exactly who he is, exactly what he's doing. He had a plan. He saw it through. He's pretty forceful in a way that you wouldn't expect from, besuited Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah.
But he's a real force of nature, and that's what sort of allowed him to create this character. I found all those little moments really interesting.
The first time I ever saw Pee-wee Herman was the first time he was on David Letterman. I was working at 30 Rock at the time. I used to hang around the Letterman thing. I could not stop laughing. And he was so convincing as this character. I thought that, like the documentary so clearly says, that he accomplished this. I thought that was the way the guy was. And I asked Paul Schaefer once, I said, he goes, no, he's not really like that. And that's the key to this documentary, is that he has hid behind this persona and did it brilliantly. And then, of course, when all the sexual scandals and the movie theater thing came out, he had to reveal who he really was. But I found the first part, it's 4 hours. Unlike you, Lisa, who thought you could watch more.
I could.
I found the first part to be brilliant, and the second part, it was like too much Pee Wee Playhouse. There was like 40 minutes of Pee Wee Playhouse. And I just
I love that.
You know,
too.
people don't realize that he was responsible for a lot of the aesthetic and the design, that he went to art school.
Well, he was a control freak. He controlled every aspect of the production.
But honestly, I'm glad he was. It was a completely...
That's why he couldn't handle Matt Wolf doing the documentary, because he wasn't in control.
Right.
I do recommend it, but I thought the second part did go on too long. But I did really enjoy Lorraine Newman and, as you said, Phil Hartman and all these groundling people and him doing all these other different characters. The Four Seasons is a new streaming series created and starring Tina Fey. Let's take a look at a clip.
Wait, you guys, you have to go in. The water is like perfect.
You're supposed to give sunscreen like a half hour to absorb.
Yeah, the sunscreen thing for me too.
Yeah. I don't wanna.
You know what? What the hell? Here we go. See you guys. Come on.
Wow, they are straight up frolicking.
Do you think you're the first old man to date a younger woman?
Bill McCuddy, what's up with the Four Seasons?
Well, I wish I had better news. This is based on 1981's Alan Alda film, and if it seemed dated then, man, does it feel dated to me now, despite Tina Fey behind the scenes, Steve Carell, Will Forte, and the unbelievably gifted Coleman Domingo, who can do no wrong, and I can't believe is in this thing.
No wrong.
Right.
Basically, the storyline is 6 people go on a vacation together every year. It's a miracle.
Every season.
Every season, I'm sorry. So 4 times a year. And it's a miracle that these people can stand one another after one season. I mean, I had a real problem with this. I love everybody behind the scenes in it, but I think its biggest crime is it's not bad and it's not good. It's somewhere in between.
Rafer?
It needs more seasoning.
That's a good point. It really, it's not really satirical. It's not really emotionally engaging. It's kind of, as you're saying, like the cast is pretty good. The writing is okay. There's 1 or 2 laughs, and you're kind of watching it. And
I hate this place.
I guess I kind of felt it was like a mocktail. I kind of thought like this is perfectly enjoyable, and it has no effect on me at all. And when I was done, I was just done. That was it.
I loved it, but let Lisa go first.
As a kid, I obsessively watched the 1981 Alan Alda movie. It was like eavesdropping.
That's a strange thing to do as a kid.
Yeah,
no, I know, but for me, it was like eavesdropping on how New York grown-ups who did too much therapy talked to each other when kids weren't around. And obviously Tina Fey did too. And it's nice to see, I think it's nice to see a series tackle middle age with such eminently watchable actors, even if putting a guy like Will Forte in a normie mode is kind of like asking Picasso to paint a Norman Rockwell, you know, it doesn't make sense.
Cute analogy.
But my bigger beef is that I think, you know, Tina Fey has retracted her fangs here. You can see she's trying to be less of a quote unquote mean girl. Right. And I think when she takes her fangs away, some of her most sharply observed wit also goes away. And that's a problem.
Listen, it follows the basic structure, the bones of the 1981 movie, but it's updated. I mean, there's a gay couple in there.
Yeah, let's check all the new boxes.
Are gay.
You know, but I really enjoyed spending time with these people. Listen, if you've been in a long-term marriage or a relationship, it's not a straight line. It's ups and downs. And I think that that's one of the things that gets across in here. And I think the photography of this is just beautiful. Each of the seasons that they portray. And, you know, Faye reunited with a lot of the writers from her 30 Rock when 30 Rock
which means
series.
it should be better.
No, I liked it so much. I mean, I really enjoyed.
Why don't you go on vacation with them?
Yeah,
I'd spend the week with these people. I recommend it. You're mixed on it.
We were the president of the Best Armstrong.
And you hate the movie.
I didn't hate it. I just said it wasn't good.
And it's a series. It's coming back for. They say at the very end.
Please God, no.
Rafer, you work for Newsday and you cover Billy Joel. So tell us about the new documentary about the legendary singer-songwriter Billy Joel and So It Goes.
All right. So this is huge news in Billy Joel land. And this is documented by Susan Lacey, who is the creator of PBS's American Masters. It's not a PBS documentary, but it has that sheen and that depth and that scope of an American Masters piece. And this is being sold as like the Billy Joel that you never knew. This is going to delve into stuff we've never seen, archival footage, information that we didn't know about Billy Joel. I would say that might be a little bit of an oversale, but Still, he is extremely honest in this documentary and talks all about, this is part 1, by the way, part 2 we haven't seen. But in part 1, it's his early life, his early career, his first bands, his first albums. He talks about his 2 suicide attempts, and which sounded much more real and much more serious than we've heard in the past. And I think the real find here is really focusing in on Elizabeth Weber, who was his first wife and then became his manager. There's a somewhat sordid backstory to all of it, but she became his first manager and really was a huge champion for him. And the movie, I think, really zeroes in on her and really shows what she did for him and what she did for his career. And that stuff's really interesting to hear about. I think once we get into part 2, things might become a little heavier, a little juicier, because that's when Christy Brinkley's going to show up. That's when the drinking problems began in earnest. So, but given how honest that Billy was in this part, I have high hopes that the next part won't just be a whitewash or a soft sell. I think it could go pretty deep.
As a longtime fan of Billy Joel, who used to see him perform in little clubs, which they show you in the movie before he made it really big, I thought I knew everything there is to know about Billy Joel, and I was really surprised that this movie gave me a lot more insight to things that I did not know. I really like the fact that it's explained to you where the song came from, who the song was about.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, the wife, they say at the end of part 1, you know, his first 3-4 albums, despite all these songs, you know, New York State of Mind and Summer Highland Falls, those songs went nowhere until the Stranger album came out. And then all the back catalog stuff became hits, you know? And I found it fascinating that Just the Way You Are, he wanted to throw that song away. He said this song is mushy and it's junk. And Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow go, this is an amazing song. And the wife said, you're putting this song on the album, and that became the #1 hit.
CBS didn't hear a hit, and they chose Moving Out.
They were going to cancel his contract with Columbia, and that's what made him. Look, and this guy also was really nervy. I mean, George Martin was going to produce this guy, the Beatles manager, and he goes, no, I want my own band. I don't want.
That's a famous story. Love me, love my band.
You know, he was compared originally to Elton John, and he starts showing you Elton John's piano playing and how different that is from the way he plays the piano. So I thought I knew everything. There's so much more, and I hope part 2 is not a whitewash.
Me
but
too.
If it's anything like part 1, I'm excited to see it.
Me too.
Thank you.
Lisa, let's discuss yet another documentary. This one is called Sally.
Well, this one is about the aptly named Sally Ride, the first female astronaut to fly in space, a woman who meant so much to me and my girlfriends when I was growing up. Ride was also the first lesbian to fly in space, though she didn't come out until after she died, when she gave her partner of 27 years permission to acknowledge their relationship in an obituary. That actually is as much the subject of this documentary as her feats as an astronaut. Although I think the most important and interesting part of this documentary to me was the footage of all the unexamined sexism that she had to navigate with the press corps and with NASA. Case in point, the space kit that they prepared for her contained makeup. And,
lots of makeup.
Yeah, and 100 tampons for 6 days.
And they said, is it enough?
Yeah, they were like, is this enough? Yes. And the doc also digs into the courageous stand that she took when NASA's carelessness caused the Challenger to explode and no one took responsibility for it. If there's a weakness in this documentary, and I think there is, it's that Christina Constantini's direction is maybe more conventional, more rote than Ride herself was. Still, it's very much worth watching, I thought.
She was so frightened, I'm going to add, that she got married to a man
right.
and they had a sham marriage for all that time.
Well, and the guy didn't clock the fact that she was gay till the end.
But
he might have been.
What you're missing is that the Billie Jean King was she lost all her contracts and came under such scrutiny when she came out. That scared her.
She did it for business reasons. There's no question. Listen, I think this is a very, very fine documentary that everybody needs to see because we forget about a time 100%. In our period where women just weren't allowed. It was the all boys club with no girls allowed kind of thing, and she broke that barrier.
Yeah, I think if there's any little problem with the documentary, it's the fact that Sally Ride was so closed off and so arm's length because she had to be, that it makes it a little difficult to
extract her.
You can't quite warm up to her and you can't quite get a handle on her because all of her public appearances are so businesslike and her answers were so short, so no nonsense. There's not a lot there that you can kind of grab onto in a way. And so that's sort of I don't know what you want to call that, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The first hour of this was fascinating. And by the way, she handles the press great with all these stupid, sexist questions.
Yeah. She's cool.
And I loved her answer when, you know, it's so great when she goes, I wish this wasn't a big deal that I'm the first American in space. I would, you know,
woman.
Woman, yeah.
You know, what did I say?
American
woman in space. Thank you very much. But I loved the first hour of it, and then the last half an hour, it got very redundant for me. Yes, she's a lesbian. Yes, she couldn't come out, but that is repeated over and over and over and over again. And you said, Lisa, the one flaw in this. I'll tell you the really big flaw in this.
Oh,
she does these stupid reenactments of like she's having this romantic dinner with her longtime lover, and they have actors playing it.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think the filmmaking is really conventional. That's one of my least favorite tropes in documentary making. The reenactment are always embarrassing.
It was a ridiculous choice by the director to do something like that. And again, after she quit NASA, you know, wanted a private life.
Stuff.
It to me, but it's this. Okay, I understand she was closeted, but it's like 40 minutes of it. I got it after 10 minutes, you know? I liked the first hour, and then I got bored. That's basically it.
We knew something was in the air. I could feel it around me.
Everyone said, you're mad. You're completely crazy.
But I knew this was going to be the way to go.
It was an electric atmosphere. And that had been what I'd been waiting for.
We knew that we were on the right track.
I wanted it to be something that they hadn't heard before.
That was a clip from the new documentary, Becoming Led Zeppelin. Lots of docs in this episode of Talking Pictures. It's Rafer Guzman's personal choice as we go around the panel with our critics' picks of the month. Rafer.
All right, so I'm going to pick Becoming Led Zeppelin. This is a documentary about the early years of the band before they became the Golden Gods and sort of synonymous with rock and roll excess. Back when they were all just kind of journeyman musicians. Jimmy Page was a session musician. Robert Plant was a singer in a band, kind of hopping from band to band. Sort of how they come together and how they become this thing that we now know as Led Zeppelin. I think it's great to kind of zero into that because I think it's a phase of their career that we don't hear that much about. Mostly we're hearing about the sex and the drugs and the groupies and all that kind of stuff. And it's really great to hear them all talk about what they want out of the band. And it's great to hear Jimmy Page really talk about how this was his band and he had this really strong idea that they were not going to be a singles band. They were going to be an FM radio album band. Like he almost like saw the future. Like I can see the classic rock future coming and we're going to be it. And that's really fun. I think two great things about it. They've got this audio interview with the drummer, John Bonham, who almost never gave interviews. And the audio of that is really sweet and really sincere, which is, you know, kind of not what you'd expect from him.
Say that he passed away.
Yeah, obviously. He passed away from alcohol abuse. I mean, he was kind of the quintessential rock and roll party animal.
Also a great drummer.
And a great drummer. But, you know, you've got this really nice, sincere, very heartfelt interview with him. And I will say this documentary has some of the best concert footage I have ever seen, ever. It's just pristine looking. The sound is incredible. And it's all in these kind of small concert halls before they were playing arenas. So you're really seeing like the band and the musicians. So if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, even if you're just a casual Led Zeppelin fan.
I want to see this
which
now.
I am.
You should
I'm
see it in IMAX
fan.
because they have it in IMAX at some locations.
That's right.
I want to see this.
Bill McCuddy, what's your pick?
Well, I hate to say this, but I don't have a documentary. This is a Netflix series called Department Q with Matthew Good that I thought I had discovered. And then I went to Rotten Tomatoes. It has 100%, and it's the #1 choice in the country of what people want to see or what they're recommending. I don't blame them. It's about an Edinburgh, Scotland detective given his own cold case department to run. And it's a bunch of misfits that are trying to solve cold cases, Good's in the lead of everyone. And it reminds me so much of one of my other favorite shows, which is called Slow Horses on Apple, where everyone's dysfunctional and it doesn't matter. They somehow solve the cases. There's a missing woman presumed dead, and that's the case that requires much more of a deep dive that some people will be prepared for. You have to pay attention to this whole thing. Yeah. Neil, you may want to watch it 2 or 3 times, but I highly recommend Department Q.
What is your pick, Lisa?
Well, my pick is kind of an unlikely for me pick. It's called The Life of Chuck. It's a deeply odd, deeply, in my opinion, appealing dystopia that's in 3 seemingly disjointed acts that I'm guessing only got made because it's adapted from a Stephen King novella and directed by Mike Flanagan. As a working intuitive from Salem, Mass, which is true, I'm outing myself here, I regard King and Flanagan as the rare supernatural storytellers who are worth their salt. And this movie can get under your skin if you let it. Maybe it includes dance numbers, a very dry Nick Offerman voiceover, Mark Hamill in crusty old man mode, and in my opinion, always endearing Chiwetel Ejiofor as a
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yes, as a teacher who's still trying to school his students about Walt Whitman as the world burns. Definitely not for everybody, this one, but I found it the perfect film to watch in air conditioning in the dead heat of summer. It's thought-provoking and entertaining.
My pick is the brand new 3rd season of the HBO series, The Gilded Age, and it's by far the best season yet. For those unfamiliar with the show, it's set in New York in the late 1800s, and it's a battle of new money versus old money in New York society. The Russell family, loosely based on the Vanderbilts, are trying to gain acceptance in this world. If you know your history, many of the plot points in all 3 seasons often parallel real-life events. The 3rd season has many storylines, but one of the main ones revolves around how social climbing Mrs. Russell, played by Carrie Coon, is forcing her daughter to marry a man she not only doesn't love, but doesn't even know. Why? He's British royalty who needs money for his many estates, and for Mrs. Russell, it's all about upping the social status of her family. The many talented actors in the cast, like Christine Baranski, Cynthia Nixon, and Nathan Lane, are outstanding, and so are the meticulous Gilded Age sets, which are recreated to even more perfection in the latest season, down to the last detail. The series was created by Julian Fellows of Downton Abbey fame. He also co-writes all the episodes, so if you're not familiar with the series, start from the beginning, and if you're a fan like me, you're going to love Season 3. Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Bill McCuddy, Lisa Rosman, and Rafer Guzman. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.